Malachi the Rancher here. I received quite a few DMs this past week of people asking, how do you get started in this cattle industry? What would you do to get started? What do you think is the best way? So I'm going to answer that question to the best of my ability. My platform or my thoughts and ideas may be your thoughts, but here's a few basics. Another question was like, how much money did it take to start it up? What are the hidden costs? Do I have to buy a tractor? Do I have to buy a four-wheeler or a side-by-side? So I'm going to answer all those questions that I received in the past week. My suggestion is that for you to go on Facebook Marketplace or go on Craigslist in your area, I would try to stay within no more than 25 to 50 miles away from your home, just in case you have unforeseen emergencies where you have to get to your livestock or whatever you're raising out there. Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist normally has people who want to lease their land. Now, leases can start as low as helping around the property up to thousands of dollars per month. So I did a little research today in the Navasota area of Texas, and there were a few ads where they had property leasing for $200 a month, 10 to 15 acres, and that was a pretty fair price. But you also have to keep in mind is that if you're raising something like livestock, goats or chickens, especially livestock, you have to have a water source. So you want to lease a property that actually has a pond or has a functioning water well, because water is very important when it comes to agricultural needs. So this particular property had both. It had a pond, 10 acres, and it had a water well on the property. So that's a plus. 75% of the property was fenced in and the rest of it wasn't. So just acquiring some T-posts and some barbed wire or maybe some hot fence, or get the solar powered electric fence. Recommend a company like American Farm Works. This is what I use. I'm not sponsored by them, but I do use their products to fence off the rest of it. Next of all is that I wouldn't run out and buy a tractor or a four-wheeler or a backhoe or skid steer or a trailer or those things. If you're operating with limited funds, or you want to keep some money in your pocket, you can always rent those things. You can rent trailers for $50 for the day if you need to move cattle, instead of spending a couple $1,000s for a trailer. You can rent skid steers if you need them. You can rent tractors if you need them. So I wouldn't tie up a bunch of cash into getting farm equipment until you decide how you want to build your platform and if your platform is even going to work for you. As far as buying like livestock, we can start with chickens. Chickens is the easiest, but are you raising chickens for meat birds? Are you raising chickens for eggs, or for both? So you have to decide how your platform is going to be established and what's going to be most profitable for yourself. Myself, I got into the cattle industry first. But I did have a few chickens, but I went full-fledged to the cattle side of it. So let's just say, for instance, as you go to Facebook Marketplace or go to Craigslist and look at cows, bred cows, for you don't know, those are pregnant cows. I tend to stay away from the sale barns. To me, and people have their different opinions, but sale barns to me are more like used car auctions. You don't know the treatment of that animal. You don't know how it was cared for, what the diet was like. They can look good, but if I do go to a sale barn, I'll actually walk around, shake a few hands, see what's in what trailer. Sometimes you have guys that just need to make a quick sale, and because they need to pay for something for their kids' school or something. So you can catch some deals here and there. Before you jump out the window and just start spending thousands of dollars on cattle, do your research. I look at the posting of the person. I look at how long existence they've been in this business. I look at any reviews, and sometimes reviews are put out there just to basically discredit someone else, and they may not always be true. But I was lucky enough to find a guy out of Arkansas that brings his cows from Arkansas to Texas, and talked to the guy. He was nice enough to show me around, and that basically opened up the relationship, whereas I continue to still buy from him. Especially if someone says, hey, this is what I have. I have 10, 15 cows. I have 2 or 3 calves. Take a look. You may want to take a vet with you. Just pay them, $100 just for a couple of hours just to come walk around and see what they have. So what I did was I bought bred cows first. And, you want to ask, is this a first-time mother or how many calves has she had? So I started out with cows that were 6 years old and 8 years old. They were proven good mothers. So when my cows gave birth, I was able to observe and see how those cows actually took care of their calves. So I started out extremely small. And as stated before, I was telling you guys, you can rent your equipment. I didn't buy anything. Only thing I purchased was an old pickup truck, an old Dodge truck, which I still drive today. And, I picked up a few tools from Lowe's and Home Depot. This is the basics. And water troughs and feed troughs and a couple bags of feed. And I was pretty much out there every day, walking the property, thinking of ideas. And I believe that in order to become one with nature, you got to spend time out there. I did a lot of YouTube searching. I saw a lot of bad information. I saw a lot of good information. I saw some mediocre stuff. I went out to social media and, asked a few questions. And what I have found in this cattle industry, there's a lot of angry people, a lot of angry ranchers. For what reason? A lot of rude ones, and a lot of spoiled ones. Some of these ranchers and some of these farmers have generational history of this. So this was handed down to them. This is what they lived off of. And, I've met a lot of ranchers and farmers that feel that the way they do things is the only way and the correct way. Anything outside of that, you're dead wrong. Platforms are different. Platforms are always made to be made better. So you can learn from a lot of different platforms, but beware, you will meet a lot of angry people. Even on this platform here, you'll get nasty comments. You don't know what you're talking about. Oh, you should have stayed in the city. Or you're just a slick New Yorker. You're going to hear it all. But don't let that discourage you, because eventually you'll be able to build a brand like I built a brand. Built so high, whereas I have my own liquor out right now. And it's my cattle collection brand. I have my own cattle collection store in such a short period of time. And always remember, people will hate you for your prosperity. So back to the original question is that I rented equipment first. I bought bred cows. I took a vet with me. I did my research on some of these different sellers. I looked at previous posts. I went to sell barns to see what was going on, just to be an observer, to see what the market price is. And, some people come there to, buy and sell to make a profit. And some come there just to be nosy. Like I was there to be nosy, just to see what was going on. So once you've established a fairly decent lease with somebody, you might want to also add into your lease, in the event of that person expires, that whoever the landowner is, it could be an heir, a son or daughter or sister or brother, whoever, that they give you at least 90 to 120 days to vacate if you need to vacate. A lot of these people that still live in the rural areas, the country areas that have land, have a lot of family members that are heirs that live in New York and Detroit and LA. They know nothing about agriculture. So what they see is dollar signs. So once that person passes away, it's passed down to them. They want to sell and go back to their respective cities. You might want to try to eventually, not pry too hard, but try to meet who the heirs are. Let them know you're out there. Hey, this is what I do. If anything ever comes up, I can be there to help. Just let me know. Because people can become very vicious when someone is deceased and, the spoils are divided up. So just as quick as you got into the business, you can get run out of this business. So, back to the cattle side of it. I started with a couple heads bred cows. Once they had their calves, I then looked at, where do I go from here? What do I want to do? Where am I going with this? And as stated before, I am not from the agricultural community. I came from New York City. I'm a city guy. And, I studied a lot of YouTube. And I hung around a lot of people, hung around the tractor supplies, feed lots, hung around sale barns, just to acquire information, try to figure out why I'm in this, where am I going with this. So I sat on those 4 cows for several months. And then I ended up purchasing a bull. Never touched a bull, never knew anything about a bull. And bull was very, very docile. I was able to hand feed the bull, but I gave the bull its respect. So in the meanwhile, I have 2 cows only to put on 1 bull. And that could become an aggravating situation for 1 bull. So what I did was I put ads out that I would lease my bull out, because that bull's job is to breed, is to make you money. And your bull is your money. So in the meanwhile, with that 1 bull, I did run across another ranch that actually needed a bull. This was a full Angus bull. He was about 4 years old. You had to get him trig tested, which is basically for diseases. And I presented him the trig test. I rented him out for $500 a month. He stayed for 3 months. Now, I do have my bull over at another property, so I have a money maker to the side. In the meanwhile, I started acquiring bred cows that were 7, 8 months pregnant. So while my bull is over there working, my cows are about to give birth. So around the time my 3-month lease agreement was over with that other ranch, I bring my bull back. Now he has a little bit more to deal with, more to play with. So he has not just the original 2, but he has 3 more additional females. So that's 5. That's really not a whole lot, because you can technically have 25 heifers or cows on 1 bull. So I said, you know what? Let him mess around with these 5 for right now. And I realized after like a week or 2, he was more distant. He didn't show any more interest. I guess that, he had done his thing. And then I was worried about him possibly breaking a fence because there was neighboring cows and he would try to go over there. Luckily, I had somebody come along and decided they want to lease my bull from me. So I kept my money maker. So while he's over there doing his job at another ranch, and this lady here had like 50 heads of heifers that were open, ready to go, that allowed me to use that income of $500 a month to add to some additional money that I had to buy myself more cows, more heifers. So this is how I got started in this business. And in the meanwhile, I had to think about, well, what am I going to do with these calves? So once these calves got about to maybe say 650, close to 800 pounds, after about a year, then I turned around and decided to do farm to table processed meat. So what I did was I offered a whole cow. I didn't have a freezer facility. I'm not selling a quarter cow, and I let people know, I have whole cows available. And at the time, I only put 4 up available at the time. So, people were saying that, hey, I just only want a half, want a quarter. And I was like, partner up with someone where you can acquire the whole cow. But in the meanwhile, I was looking for processors, and I found some processors in reasonable prices, pretty much standard pricing for the market. I found somebody that did it for right at $800 to process. And I looked at the grocery store beef prices versus what the market itself, farm to table, and I found my happy place right there. So I made a few $1,000 off of, 1 cow that was processed. And then I did another one. So I used that money, I put it back into my ag business and bought more bred cows. So after a year or so, I'm sitting on a nice size herd. So you have to decide whether you want to do farm to table, sell beef to people, and keep in mind, and if you want to go farm to table, you cannot go a quarter, a half cow, because you'll be stuck with a half of cow sitting in the freezer hoping to sell it. To me, it's like a used car lot. You got a whole bunch of used cars, you got a whole bunch of steaks, a whole bunch of ground beef, or whatever the case may be, and now you're trying to sell it. You don't want stuff on the shelf. To me, it's all or nothing. It's how I operate it. So I blended my business over to the chicken side of it and knew nothing about chickens, never held the chicken, never touched the chicken. Matter of fact, I put gloves on the first time I picked up a chicken. I didn't know what to expect. So I said, you know what? Am I going to do meat birds? Do I have enough space on my leased land to actually do a meat bird? So I said, you know what? I'm going to start out really, really tiny. I'm going to start out with 20 chickens. And I'm going to sell roadside eggs, or I'm going to put it on Facebook. hey, I have eggs for sale, $1.50 a dozen, $2 a dozen, whatever the market was at the time. So it's just a couple extra bucks. And until I can actually learn how to operate with chickens, how to deal with chickens, see how they move, how they maneuver. So you get a chance to learn a lot about agriculture by actually owning it. So I then graduate to a larger property that I acquired, a lot more acreage. So that was the place where I did my entire build out. Whereas I put extra water tanks out there, I fenced off pastures, and I had a real plan. So that real plan was to sell beef to small, and I don't like to use the word small businesses because people, they treat you differently if you're a small business or you don't have a big corporation. But let's just say businesses that may face more challenges because of the size of how they operate. So I went to these type of businesses such as food trucks, and food trucks such as taco trucks or trucks that sold hamburgers. And I told them, I said, I have, ground beef. It's from this line of cow. I can sell you just, what are you paying? Are you paying $4, $5 per pound? Or what would be a market price for you to earn your business? So I brought them some sample ground beef over and let them, cook it and serve it to their customers. And I gave away, 10 pounds just to see what would happen. And then we ended up landing a deal with a couple food trucks where people were buying ground beef from me direct. So that was the door opener for me. Now keep in mind, if I have 600-700 pounds of ground beef, you have to have sources to buy it. So I went to a lot of food trucks, and I had everybody pretty much on the same schedule. Delivery on Wednesday. Some people would take deliveries twice a week, and then I had eggs. So that's how I began the hustle of selling eggs and ground beef. So you can always adjust your platform and how you want to do it. Feed was another thing, and keep in mind, you want to lease a property that has good grass. I mean, I've seen some properties for lease that's just basically dirt. But this property in particular, when I first started, had very good grass. You want to find a local feed store that has good prices, introduce yourself, find out what they're about, what their feed is made of. I started out with the grass-fed cows. I would give feed, once a week as a supplement. And some guys are like, no, you gotta get feed every day, or you get feed a couple times a day. I just look at how history itself. I mean, if you go, 200 years back, we didn't have 50-pound bags of feed to give cows. Cows were eating grass. And right now, in this day and age, you have to pay attention to what type of feed or alternative supplements you give them. There's so many different different types of chemicals out there that ranchers are giving their cattle, and it gets passed on to us, the human being. So do you want to go total grass-fed? Do you want to finish with grain on the last couple of months before you process? You have to decide. So let's talk numbers. The lease was first month and last month up, a couple $100, okay? The fencing that I need to do additionally on the property, T-posts was $4 a piece. I got maybe, T-posts are the posts you drive into the ground and you attach your barbed wire to. So I got another 60 T-posts. I bought a roll of wire, barbed wire, for about $69. I bought an electric solar fence, solar charger. That was like $130. Copper rods for your grounding were like $18 a piece. And then the wire itself was another $10-12. Purchased the cattle, bred cows. At the time, the market was, and you can still find them at this price today. I found bred cows for $1,550. Another one was $1,800. These were purebred Angus cows. And water troughs, I bought them used on Facebook Marketplace for about $50 a piece. Started with a couple bags of feed. Put up 1 or 2 wireless cameras. Just so happened I was allowed to use the Wi-Fi so I can watch my cattle. That's how I basically got started in this industry. Not a whole lot. And then I did my research to look for, pole saws for sale, chainsaws, axes, fire extinguishers. I was looking for, whatever they had. I wouldn't recommend buying a used fire extinguisher, but that's how I got started. So I started very, very minimum in this business. After this is now we're going up my third year into this, and I've built a very, very good platform. Let me grab something for you. I'll be right back. Hold on a second. I'm grateful and thankful for, all the people who are behind me and supporting me in this industry. But this is Califf Collection. We launch in a month or so. This is our own brand of liquor. It was a challenge. I didn't know anything about the liquor space, but I'm learning and I'm in it now. So, don't let these fourth and fifth generation ranchers and farmers discourage you. I get it all the time. Oh, you had the cheat code, or you didn't put in the hard work, or you're a city slicker that got by, you got lucky. Tune that out. If I can do it, you can do it. And this is not a motivational, conversation, but I really mean that. If I can do it, you can do it. I started out with a certain amount of cash, and I built it to a platform whereas I'm living my best life right now. Things are looking really, really good, and it's getting better. So, can you get into this business for $5,000-6,000? You can. You can. It's a challenge when you don't have proper guidance or someone to basically lead you or hold your hand, because people will give you bad information to keep you from succeeding. I don't know. People today are so vicious and so evil. So yes, $5,000 to $6,000 you can get started. If you just start out with one bread cow, a lease, and just a few basics until you're ready to build. Don't be in a rush. Keep your cows healthy. Find yourself a vet that just graduated from college, or make friends with a vet. You can learn how to do vaccinations yourself. There's different types of vaccines you can buy from Tractor Supply, and learn, ask questions. It's even better if you can buy cows that have been vaccinated and have been dewormed. And that kind of gives you a little bit more time to raise your cash up and get to where you need to get. Partner with someone like myself that's willing to open the doors up and help you in this industry. I'm nobody's fool, but by the same token, I will answer questions. I don't hold the game back. Just because people kept doors closed on me, or people were very judgmental as far as me getting to this industry, doesn't mean I'm going to be the same way. So there are some good people in this industry. There are some bad people in this industry. But my personal experience, I've met more haters and more angry people in the ranching industry. I just don't understand why. Maybe it's the demographics in which I live, or maybe it's just that particular day that I didn't meet the right people. But right now, I'm self-sustainable. I don't have to really need to reach out to anyone as far as needing any help in this industry. But I'm willing to help people to the best of my ability. And like I said, my platform may not be your platform. You may want to go into goats. I do have goats, but I'm not a big goat guy. I do have a lot of chickens. I do have cows, lots of cows. Everything down to donkeys. Knew nothing about a donkey. I have them, basically just to ward off, predators such as coyotes or things like that. So this is not a business that it's not in anyone's reach. Like I said, I'm in my third year of doing this business, and it was a great decision for me. So back history of me is that I was in the United States military for 15 years. And then from there, I started a trucking business. I started a cosmetic surgery recovery house business. I've done Airbnb. So I've moved around a lot of different industries. A contractor for some government contracting companies. I'll leave that alone. But at the end of the day, it was a challenge to come from the city into the country life. And people think that, this is a fad. I'm going to move to Texas. I'm going to move to Oklahoma. I'm going to go to Wyoming and start a farm. My hat's off to you, but you just got to, take baby steps at this. Look at the basics. So coming from the trucking industry, I had a lot of semi trucks on the road. I got into the trucking industry when I was first into the medical industry, which is the cosmetic surgery side of it, business out of Florida. And when the season of the jab, I made a substantial amount of money. And then when the election came in and the sleepy guy got in, I saw fuel prices rise, the rates go down, and I downsized really, really quickly. I waited a little bit of time, even though right now in the trucking industry, the fuel prices are through the roof. I downsized, sold trucks, and realized that in order for me to get to the agricultural side of it, I needed more time to myself and less management employees. So I did keep 2 trucks, and then I eventually just down to 1 truck. I still do local loads within a 200-mile radius, so I'm back home every day. But I built the platform well enough, whereas, as I stated, it took me a little bit of time, but create your own liquor brand. We have our own shower body wipes out. I have an egg brand out now. I have my license from the state of Texas. So I'm moving in various different directions, and it's become extremely profitable for me. You have to stay disciplined, because once you start making some money, you need to put money back, because there are going to be some hidden costs. You could have, you buy yourself a Mahindra tractor or a John Deere tractor and something breaks, your PTO or whatever, you're going to need money to fix that. So I don't recommend running out there and spending it on things that are foolish in life. You're going to eventually need to hire a ranch hand to help you out here and there. Once you get to a size of where I'm at or where other people are at, I'm not managing 600-700 heads of cows, but I still have cow management has to be done. And, there's always room for improvement. Like, I have the AI cameras all over the property, which I can locate cows, night vision. I can record and do various different things with my camera system. It helps out. So instead of me having to go out there every day and keeping eyes on my cows, I can kind of watch them from my phone and see what's going on. I can see what my water looks like. I can see, if there's any breaks in the fence. So if I just can't get there that day, I can still have eyes on my property. The next thing that, I'm working on right now is moving more into the bigger restaurants. But I got to be a little bit careful with that, because I do something a little bit different that most ranchers or farmers don't do. And I just got a bad negative comment the other day about this. I actually monitor the water quality every single day. I know exactly what my cows are drinking. I do soil samples. I check things all the time, because me as the business, and I have consumers, I want to give you something that I would eat. And some people say, "Oh, that's a bunch of baloney. You just sell cows, and it's not that. It's too serious. Put too much time in it." Well, my thing is that I want to make sure I have a healthy herd. I want to make sure I'm giving my herd something that is healthy, all the way down to my chickens. So to me, we don't have, in this day and age, where people really care about what they're putting out in these markets. We have everything from 3D printed meat now to all these chemical GMO meats. It's a lot of foolishness out there. So one thing for sure, if you buy from me as a consumer, you're going to get exactly what you pay for. I'm not going to be in a rush to try to sell 70,000 pounds of beef this month. That's not my focus. My focus is to sell quality. And, the person that's listening right now, it's a hunk of bullshit. Oh, he's just, trying to blow it up, whereas he's really trying, my thing is about quality. It's just as much in my heart to do quality as to put my liquor brand out. It's about the experience. And this is something that people don't put out anymore, is the experience. People just want to put out a product. People want to hustle. If I only make $2 million next year in the cow industry, or if I only make $200,000 in the cattle industry, at least I know I put quality out. That's what it's all about. And if you're going to just do agriculture just for yourself, sustain your family, then create a platform that works for you and your family. If you want to do it where you have a customer base, put something out there that makes your customer base happy. So once you get into the cattle industry, there's so many different platforms you can go into where you're raising hay, goats, chickens, pigs, you name it. But also understand that I would say approximately 75 to 85% of the cattle industry is controlled by 4 big companies. So you have to be very cautious of that as well, because once you start tapping to markets that they're already in and offering a certain type of product that's more quality, they'll spend the money and try to run you out of town really, really quickly. I've already faced a situation similar to that, whereas I reached out to it's not a national chain, but it's a restaurant brand. And that restaurant brand took on some of my product, loved it, and it was promoted a different way. And here comes one of the big 4 with their lawyers and I would say their network, and try to run me out. Fortunately, I'm still in that platform. So, there are a lot of demons in this industry. It's a lot of hatred in this industry. And my plans were not to go after one of the bigger beef companies, contracts, shall I say. It just happened that way. And I was approached actually by the venue itself. So, you gotta stay focused in this. You gotta keep your head in a swivel. Pay attention to your circle before they hurt you. Keep your head in a swivel. People will hate you for your prosperity. But I would say go hard as you can. Make your greatest day every day. And put in the hard work ethics. That's pretty much my advice to you. And I appreciate you guys for listening to me.